Now we'll get on to Lethal Weapon 4. Lethal Weapon 4. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Lethal Weapon. Classic, one of my favourites. One of my favourites by Richard Donson. Right? Richard Donson there. Richard Donner. My favourite director. May he rest. I say it again. One of my favourites by Richard Donner. Lethal Weapon 2. A damn good worth it sequel. And Lethal Weapon 3. I love Lethal Weapon 3. I saw Lethal Weapon 3 when it first come out on theatrical, and you know what? I loved it. But this one, in my eyes, it wasn't really needed. It wasn't really needed. Was it needed? No, because it came out in the late 90s, right? And I think Lethal Weapon 3, ended it beautiful. Mel Gibson as Rich shoots the bad guy with them bullets. The bad guy says, "Go to hell, Rich. You first." Pushes him. Gets the love of his life. He settles down. Danny Duffer as Murtaugh says, "No, I'm not going to retire." They dive off, right? And they did a comedy scene. If you ever watched the ending of Lethal Weapon 3, they did this funny scene where the building blows up. I've got to say that, but you'll probably see that in another review of Lethal Weapon 3. Building blew up. I remember seeing that in the cinema. Big Steve, practical explosions. Something you're never going to see ever again. As sad as it is. But there's a scene anyway, I was about to say, where the building blew up at the end, and both of them say, "We're getting too old for the did, 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 did," and they put a bit of comedy music there. And it was supposed to just be a comedy. That scene was just supposed to be a laugh out loud bit of humour, right? But Lethal Weapon 4 decided to follow that on. Now I know we get old. Life sucks. We get old, right? Not being depressing, being realistic, right? So they decided to follow that on. Now to me, Mel Gibson was not Ritz in this. This is Ritz here. Let me show you something, right? I've only got one box of the Lethal Weapon films. That's so awful. This here, that's Ritz, right? Now, Danny Duffer is doing the best he can, right? But that there is not Ritz. I love Mel Gibson. I love him. I can name loads of films. There's loads and loads of films he's done. I love Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. Even though people love it and hate it, Mad Max, The Thunderdome. I mean, it's not one of the best, but I do love the scene where he's in the dome and he's fighting that big guy, right? Just the ending felt a bit like a remake of fucking Road Warrior, but Tina Turner, the bits is in it. I like the song, We Don't Need Another Hero. And Mel Gibson wasn't the problem with that. I just felt wasn't as action packed as the other two. That's all I'm saying. But Lethal Weapon, I can name loads, Braveheart, damn good performance. You can never take away our freedom. You know what I mean? I even took the piss out of that when it came to Freedom Day. But the end of the day, so again, that was not Ritz in Lethal Weapon 4. His art wasn't in it. Yeah, he had his hair cut short. He didn't have the mallet. I can understand it was the late 90s. The mallet with his hair spiky and long. It was the 80s, and Lethal Weapon, as we know, come out in the 80s. But there's a scene in it that has to be funny. You've got to die. Remember the film Exterminator? Not the one with Arnie. There's a guy with a burnt suit, and he went around burning bad guys. But they sort of a comedy take of that. He's got some nutter, he's got a burnt suit, and he's throwing missiles and everything. I do admit it's a little bit funny here, where Mel Gibson, as Rich says to Danny Duffer, "Step off and run around like a chicken." And for some reason he does it, which sort of confuses the villain. Then Rich gets the best. There's a bit of badassness there in Rich, because he shoots the villain and the villain fires off in the air. I mean, that bit was funny. I will give it its due. It was funny, because the bit where Murtaugh says, "Why did you want me to do that?" And he said, "Oh, I just want to see you do it." So I do admit that was quite funny. So there are some funny bits in it, but then it just gets to the point where it just feels like I'm watching a fucking comedy. I'm watching a comedy. Now, Tatley, again, he's not the problem, but Tatley barely did anything. It's to do with the story didn't do anything for me. It's to do with them moving these slaves, not like tiny slave workers and that, and they're pushing drugs again. And you've got a main villain called Jack Lee, and he does martial arts. Now, in the end of the film, Mel Gibson gets the shit kicked out of him. And I get it, he's a lot older. There's a bit where he's in the boxing ring, and he's getting the shit kicked out of him when he's training, and He says, "Oh, I'm only," and he doesn't say his age. Now, granted, it's not like Indiana Jones and the Tistel Stud. They don't throw the old man's joke in your face every fucking minute, so it's so fucking annoying. This one doesn't do that, so I'll give it its due. But again, that's Ritz. Ritz was a badass. I would see the Ritz in this take Jack Leon. You know, because remember the scene at the end of Lethal Weapon where he's fighting with Danny DeBussy and he's doing the martial art moves. He gets that Chinese after being tortured and he gets his leg and he snaps the fucker's neck. Fight scene in Lethal Weapon 2 where he fights that villain. The villain's shoving a knife in his leg, but Mel Gibson is Ritz. Stu gets the better of him. That's the Ritz I wanted to see in this. I want to see that Ritz where he's fighting the Tat Lee, doing all the martial art moves. You know, without knocking the Tom this there, doing all the martial art moves, and instead he's getting the shit kicked out of him. It's like, I don't want to see Ritz getting the shit kicked out of him. I want to see a martial art move like you see in Lethal Weapon, where he's fighting Danny DeBussy with Jack Lee. That would have been badass. Or, you know, like Lethal Weapon 2, the fight scene in that. That it's not as good as the one with Danny DeBussy, but something like that. You know what I mean? No, I'll give it its due. I'm not going to rant on it too much because it does have practical stunts. I love to see Mel Gibson is Ritz. He's hanging on a fan, he's hanging on a tuck, and he does do his own stunts there. But to me, it just reminds me a bit of Lethal Weapon 2, where he's hanging on the fucking tuck. It reminds me a bit of Lethal Weapon 3, where again, if I remember rightly, he was hanging on a tuck in that. It's like how many times has he got to hang on a fucking tuck? But I'll give it his due. I'm not being too finger. He does do his own stunts, and it's professional to see real stunts. It's just that I feel I'm watching too much comedy. The scene where they go into a dentist, and this Das and Danny Duffy and one of the villains are laughing. It's supposed to be fucking funny. And Dr. Pesce in this, again, I just felt they just stuffed him in it. Dr. Pesce, they just stuffed him in it. But I just didn't feel that their art wasn't in it. Didn't think the film was needed. It was just passing in on the name and its souls. Now you got Mel Gibson Stir in it, right? She could do martial arts. Remember Lethal Weapon 3? You know, it's not nice to swear in front of a lady. Fuck you. And she kicks the shit out of them. In this, she's pregnant. She's pregnant, so she doesn't do any martial arts. You've got a movie which is called Lethal Weapon 4 with Chinese martial artists like Jet Li, who does martial arts, and Chinese fighters who do martial arts. You got Richie's Dirk, can't do anything because she's pregnant, so she's not going to do anything. She does do martial arts, but for some reason, she must have forgotten them. She must have learned tips from fucking Daniel's son in fucking Karate Kid 3, because she's forgotten to do her martial arts, and she gets the shit kicked out of her. Oh, story short, Danny Duffy's house blows up. So they copied that again. The toilet blew up in number 2, and the house got a car in it in number fucking 1. And Rich gets the shit kicked out of him. It's just comedy. But they kill the villains. Happy to say, I have heard rumours that they was going to kill Danny Duffy and Rich's character. You know, Mel Gibson and Danny Duffy's character, Murtaugh and Ritz. Happy to say they didn't get killed. So I give it its due on that. You go, it was the last one, because there's all bits of Lethal Weapon 3. It annoys me in one way, because it's all 1 and 2, but there's all bits of number 3, even though I like number 3. But they get promoted. Mel Gibson and Danny Duffy get promoted by the boss. They get an higher rank, right? And you can tell it's the last one, but it's like, to my eyes, it wasn't needed. It wasn't needed. There are some funny bits in it, so I'm not going to rant on it too much. I like the bit where Dr. Pesce is talking about the death of his goldfish. I'm not making that up. And there are some funny bits in it, but to me, if I'm going to watch Lethal Weapon, I watch 1, I watch 2, and I watch 3. I felt Lethal Weapon 4 was too long, but the only reason why I'm not writing on it too much is the one that had to be the worst it had to be the fucking horrendous. It's the TV series. The TV series is just poor and utter dog shit. It's a fine example of a remake there, but that's why I'm not ranting on it. But I want to see Ritz as a badass, doing badass things, being the Ritz I love to remember. I watch that Ritz. That's fucking Ritz. That's the Ritz I wanted to see in Lethal Weapon 4 fighting Tat Lee. Or I watch Lethal Weapon 2. Or I watch Lethal Weapon 3. To me, Lethal Weapon 4, in my eyes, wasn't a dud one. And it's sad because I do like, do like Richard Donner, but in my eyes, oh, and the society, for some reason, there was a love interest between him and Mel Gibson. Where the fuck did that come from? But other than that, see you later.